All right. We'll give a second for people to hop in. All right. What's going on, y'all? I am Chris, the striping guy, and I have a very special guest today. Mario, you want to tell them who you are?
Yeah, my name's Mario Lench. I've been in the striping business for over a year now, and I came from the U.S. military, learning engineering and construction and project management. And then once I transitioned out of that into the real world, getting into general contracting, into working roadway construction, which then led me to like small paving company, and just seeing the need of how so many paving and seal coating companies around me just needed a stripers in general. So, I took the plunge and learned a nice solid skill set over here.
Right. That's good. And one thing that is super interesting about you is the fact that you haven't just been able to grow, you've grown fast. And not only that, the way that you have grown
Mm-hmm.
is absolutely phenomenal. And that's what we're going to talk about in this live today, is how to grow a striping business fast. Because everybody wants to start a business. Nobody wants to work for other people, but it's understanding how to grow fast once you've gotten started. You're somebody who's been able to grow fast. What do you think has been some of the reasons why you've been able to grow as fast as you have?
Well, I'd be lying if I didn't say my experience in being already in the paving side for like highways, large DOT, Department of Transportation type projects, working for those size companies, and then working for a smaller paving and seal coating company, doing their sales side of things and their project management, and having those connections and just the insight of the space and who do I need to immediately talk to, because I think that's like the hardest starting point for if you're getting into this business, right? So if you were a plumber or HVAC or electrician, it's pretty easy to figure out where your customers are, residential, especially if you're working the residential side. But when you work what we do, it gets really tricky on figuring out who do I need to talk to, on getting that first job or other jobs. And so already having that insight of knowing, going to the like property management companies, learning to reach out to them. And so using that knowledge of who to reach out to start working on the sales and to take advantage of some of the knowledge and relationships I've already built while I was learning the skill set of actually striping as well, and kind of being forefront honest with that with some clients of like, they kind of knew where I was. They knew I wasn't new to the business, but I was new to the skill set. And so tapping into those relationships as well as going out. And one of the big things is doing some free small jobs. So finding the smallest parking lots I can. Like if you had like two stalls, right, at a church, especially churches. I love churches because they're only really open on maybe a Wednesday or Sunday. And so you have such a large time frame you can schedule with them. And so they were like one of my favorite places to figure out how to get that connection to.
Right. And you touched on something that I believe is very, very important. And that is building a brand and a reputation that continually drives traffic to your business, right? Because there are people who start, and let's just say year one, they do tremendous. But then you get into year 2 and 3 and 4, and they don't have the same success. Whereas it should start down here, and then over time, you should gradually go up. And I understand that you're going to get to some times of stagnant where you're not
Yep.
growing, but there should always be that forward progression of growth. There should always be, if your sales, you did X amount of number in sales this year. I mean, obviously I'm trying to double what we've done the year before. So that's and you touched on it a minute ago whenever you were talking about developing the skill set after you had already had the experience of managing projects, selling the jobs, and but you almost did it in reverse,
Yeah.
right? So you started off as a project manager managing multi-million dollar projects. You were already at the top, and then you transition into a field worker, business owner, dude, and you're crushing it. I mean, every single time I'm talking to you, there's always something new going on, a big project that's taking place, or you just got paid off of another project. I mean, every single time we talk,
Mm-hmm.
there's always, I'm landing this job, just finished this job, we're quoting this job. And I think that that's the difference between somebody who just entertains the idea and just goes, oh, I got a business, between somebody who, like you, goes out and produces. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And I will say this is like probably one of the biggest things I learned while freshly starting this business. Because part of when I was taking on this challenge is I really wanted to do it, like figure it out from the ground up. Like, how do I do this with the minimal investment to see if like this is something I really want to do, so I'm not overextending myself. And I will be, it was very interesting because I already had the experience selling jobs, but here's where I learned the difference, though, especially when starting a new business. It's very different reaching out to customers and clients who are already contacting the company I was working for. So all my job was to go out there, take all the measurements, talk to the property manager, whoever the client was, go over the project and the scope of work of what we were going to do out there. But they were warm leads. See, that's the difference. These were people who already were familiar with the company I was working with. They already had maybe prior relationships working with this company. So when it came time to, give them an estimate, they already were familiar or warmed up to said company. Now going out on my own and now just throwing my name out there that no one has any connection with, especially like if I've never worked with them before. So like let's say the first church I got, as a project, they had no idea who I was, who my company was. And so that was a different level of having to sell, going from trying to convert a cold lead, a cold, sale from the ground up. And so that was a big learning curve and something I'm still learning to this day. I don't think you ever really stop learning that. You just get better slightly
Yep.
each time you're doing it, or you
Sure.
just learn who customers are not customers for you or great customers for you.
Yeah. Because not everybody's your customer. I mean,
Yeah.
I that's something that whenever I first got started, I struggled with that because I thought that every single lead that came in, I had to be as cheap as possible to acquire as much work as possible, to stay as busy as possible. And we were making money, but I was just exchanging my time working for someone else. Then I didn't regain any time back, right? I just
Yeah.
exchanged my time working for somebody else, not necessarily generating a profit, but for the satisfaction on some jobs saying, I work for myself. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And now, once you build that brand, leverage that brand with your social proof, then you get to a place where you get to pick and choose who you work for. We pick
Yep.
and choose who our customers are. I mean, I tell people what I seen it in Discord the other day. That guy was saying that he was going to start charging $50 for estimates because a lot of people were wasting his time. Tire kickers are wasting his time because he's going out there and not converting the jobs. He's wasting a lot of time and they're just going with somebody else. Well, what I started doing is I started telling people right in the beginning, like, hey, I don't have time to waste driving around to give you guys a quote. If you're just going to go with somebody who's cheaper and you're just using me as one of the three to get a cheap bid, I'm not the cheapest contractor. If that's what you're looking for, you might want to go ahead and pick somebody else. And more often than not, even if I'm competing against a couple other people, they will pick us because I tell them off the top that I'm not the cheapest, but we will provide a quality service. And that's been working out for me. And now, man, we pick and choose who we get to work for. I got more work than I can get to. We've stayed busy and booked all year long. We're coming to quarter 4. It's the close of the season, and the
Mhm.
work is still just pouring in. I mean, I like being able to pick and choose who I work for, and I'm sure that's the case for you, right?
It's such a blessing, because I mean, but here's the thing: the caveat with that is you need those moments to figure out who those clients are for you. You know what I mean? Because I've had times where I work with clients that other contractors that I'm familiar and who I worked with well before, they don't have a great relationship. But for some reason, the person that, you know, is not a good client for them is a great client to me. So for one, take the caveat if you, because this is a small space and you'll quickly hear a lot of things of who's good, easy to work with, not so easy to work with, and you take your own personal experiences, at least for me. But you need that experience, a few of those experiences where you may you realize real quickly of what a not great client for you is, right? Usually it's the race to the bottom pricing, I've noticed, and they usually are very over demanding and have unrealistic expectations. And so not only are you now spending more time on this job, you might be spending more materials on the job unnecessarily, and the job costs you less versus some great clients I've worked with. They don't price shop. I give them the price, they take the job, and all I usually do is go out there, do a good job, send them some pictures, and they're like, fantastic. Here's a nice review for you. I'll
Yeah.
let you know when we're ready to do another one.
Right, right. And I mean, let me ask you this. What would be your advice to someone who's just getting started? They're entertaining the idea of starting this up as a business. What would be your advice to someone who is just getting started and wanting to grow a striping business?
So if I were to suggest anything, and this is just from my personal experience and what I knows works well for me, is I would go find a traffic paint manufacturer, right? Depending on your area, and go and establish an account with them and go get whatever the prevalent color, the most common colors in your area. So like here in Florida, we have mostly white paint for parking lot stripes and blue ADA stalls. So I'd go pick up a 5-gallon bucket of white, 5-gallon bucket of blue, and then I'd go find the smallest parking lots I could. So the first one I worked with was literally 2 ADA stalls, and got some tape and got some 4-inch rollers, and I taped off the sides. I hand painted those stalls. I ordered a handicap stencil from Amazon. So I was probably only into it at that point like less than $300, and that 5-gallon paint goes a long way, especially when you're hand rolling it. And I got a push broom. I found a push broom, like old push broom. I used to clear the lot because I didn't have a blower right away. And then the blower I did get was a super cheap Harbor Freight battery powered one. It was like $20. And the batteries would just die so fast. But like at that, like I said, that I was just trying to find the cheapest way to kind of get into the space and to be able to get started. That was the biggest thing, is how do I just minimally get started the fastest I can? And relying on having to get like, the perfect trailer, the perfect striping machine, that stuff's going to slow you down. I mean, if you have the cap and you're confident going for it, I'd say go for it. But for what worked super well for me is just having that minimal investment to see if this is something I'm really going to be invested in doing.
Yeah, I like how you put that. That's something that I notice a lot is people tending to overthink about just getting started,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like you don't have to start your LLC and come up with your operating agreement, determine your structure, opening your bank account. Just go get a 5-gallon bucket of paint and go hand roll 2 or 3 lines at first just to see if it's something you think that you can do. Just getting started is the most difficult process, I think, because there's never going to be a perfect time, right?
Yeah.
You're always going to find an excuse of why you just can't. Oh, there's too many people in the marketplace, oversaturation, or what if I won't succeed, right? There's always an excuse of why it may or may not be possible or impossible. And I like how you frame that, just having the drive to go and get started. And so after somebody has just went out there and got started, what would be the next step you'd say?
Definitely pay attention to like your work schedule. Like if you're working part-time or full-time and you're trying to get into this starting part-time, is you have to basically do this on the opposite of your work schedule. So if you work a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, then you've got to find places that are closed on the weekends. So places like banks, and once again, sometimes churches on Saturdays. You got to find those properties that are going to be closed to you, because you have to wait to paint those parking lots, after they close, because you have to have no cars around, or else you're not going to be able to stripe. And plus, you don't want to be liable having cars driving through while you're doing paint, because if they drive over the paint and they start running tire tracks, now you're going to get yourself in an even bigger mess. So for me, I would just recommend you find whatever the opposite of scheduling and properties that are going to be closed, and then get in there, start talking to figuring out who the property owner is, property management company. Like, who do you need to basically ask who oversees the exterior, like the property maintenance for this property, and ask to speak to that person, get an email, whatever. You don't even have to have a perfect email on yourself to get started. You can start off with a Gmail account. I know plenty of striping and other contractors in my area that have stayed busy for 5 years and they don't even have a website. They literally just have a regular Gmail account or a Hotmail account. And so, like, you don't have to have all this stuff. It's definitely helpful and nice, but you can literally get started and build a whole business just with the bare minimum.
Right. And that's another thing you said that was very interesting, is working around your job. Like, one thing that is one thing that I hear so often is the fact that immediately, and I don't know why people think this way, but immediately, just because they start a business means that they have to quit their job, put their family in jeopardy to try to go out with unrealistic expectations of what building this business looks like. Like, there's a difference between someone who's financially independent, who's got a lot of money saved up, who has the capital to
Mhm.
invest. They can burn through their savings account. That's something that I tell people. People will call me up and they'll say, "Hey, Chris, I'm thinking about starting a striping business, and I'm going to quit my job. What should I do?" The first thing I say is, don't quit your job
Yeah.
unless you have your salary of what you're making at your day job. Okay, so if you're making 60 grand at your day job, you need to have 60 grand in your savings account, because it's going to take you about 6 months to a year to build your business. While you're building your business, you're going to burn through that savings account. You're going to be paying for paint. You're going to be paying people. You're going to be doing jobs at low cost pro bono in exchange for Google reviews. That's going to build your brand and reputation. So I like how you said that. Pick properties where you're able to work around your schedule. That way, you're able to maintain your employment while you're building your business on the side. I remember I was still working for my employer. I remember the days whenever I'd call you and we'd just be talking throughout the day, and my boss, my boss would be getting upset with me because I would start having my customers calling me while he's lining me out for the day. And it got to a point where I am being bombarded with my customers while my boss is sending
Yeah.
me out to a job that I'm making 14, 15 bucks an hour on. And so having a good understanding that there's no pressure, there's no, you just because you start a business, you don't have to quit your job. You don't have to go through all of these unnecessary steps with having unrealistic expectations, because ultimately what it does is it leads people to fail,
Yeah.
because when they start it and they go, well, this wasn't for me, I really didn't think that it was gonna be like this. It's just like, no, you just had unrealistic expectations, you did not put in the work, and since you did not put in the work, you do not see the desired result because the work and the effort was not put in.
Yeah. It's very interesting because, it's just very easy to get trapped in that, like waiting for everything to be perfect to get started. And it's just not going to happen. There's not that perfect time. And it's just finding the way to just do it. And, and then the one thing I noticed for myself is that once you get a taste of like getting this first couple jobs under your belt, like, because the biggest thing, especially if you're working a part-time job, is like really what you're doing is not really like, for one, you're learning actually how to stripe, so you're learning a new skill. Unless you've already known how, like you came from a striping company, now you're starting your own thing, that's a little different. But the big thing is, like, you still have to go out there and sell. Like, you still have to convince someone to let you go. I've had times where people didn't even want like a free parking lot restriping, they just weren't interested, right? So like, you have to like get out there and learn how to sell yourself and your service. And so if you are not seeing traction in that while you're working a part-time job, then there's really no reason for you to be quitting your job just yet, because you're not even getting the sales. Unless you get like bombarded where you're constantly getting jobs and getting paid for those jobs and now you're making a little bit more, then maybe start considering, when the good time is to jump.
Yeah.
And but the big thing is you got to get out there and sell the job, or get some free jobs to set up a Google business profile or Facebook business profile to start sending them to get those reviews so you can get that proof.
Yeah. Yeah. That kind of, what you said there kind of helps me segue into the next section. And then I want to ask you, if you're someone who's doing this now, right? You're in year 2 and you're still not having the traction that you hear other people having. What would you say to them? How do you build a reputation faster in your striping business?
Take a look at what you're doing. The first thing is take a look at what you're doing. And probably if you haven't even gotten a few jobs, like at least like 2 to 5 jobs of you like, I mean, come on, we all know if we're messing around with ourselves, but like seriously out there trying to get this figured out and you're struggling for a year, is maybe you got to pivot a little bit, right? Not quit, but you just got to pivot how you're doing it. So like, one thing I've been focusing on lately is how do I become 5 Mile famous, right? So what are events that I can start going to where the like my ideal clients are, right? So one recently I just joined is, a local chamber of commerce, right? The local chamber of commerce has a lot of entrepreneurs at these events. That's the whole point. And so figuring out who's who, learning, meeting people. I mean, the more hands you shake, the more money you make. I mean, that's just the way it kind of goes. And so you just have to go get in front of the right people. So you got to find out where those people are going. So, if you want to start getting into working with property managers, then maybe go to a property manager type event, like where they would go, conferences, stuff like that. Like you can buy tickets, you can just show up, and just say, hey, this is what I do. This is our service. If you ever need, here you go. And start, just talking to more people and figuring out how you're doing it. Because maybe if you're just going door to door, like just to the business itself, a lot of the times the people you need to talk to are not there. Like if you're trying to go to a shopping plaza, like a Lowe's, you're not going to find the person who's going to give you that authority to pay you to stripe their parking lot working at some of these establishments. A lot of times, depending on the property type, like a plaza, like a Lowe's, Home Depot, shopping plazas, they usually have property management companies that oversee the maintenance of these properties. I've only met one person that actually owned that that whole plaza themselves, and they handle the maintenance themselves. But every other time, it's always, if I ever do any type of work at these type of places, it was always through a property management company. So take a look at how you are trying to get customers and get leads, because you just might be going up the wrong path, and now you just need to pivot and look in a different spot. Like I said, it's not giving up, it's just repositioning yourself on how you're approaching finding the leads, because the biggest thing is you can't grow a business if you can't sell.
100%. And that is so true. Something that you said really was very interesting. I was reading this book. Have you ever read that book from Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich?
I have it, but I have not
Okay.
actually read it though.
Okay, listen to this. What you said reminded me of something about quitting before you experience success. In the first chapter of that book, it talks about desire. And the beginning processes of success ultimately starts with having the desire to achieve the acquired result. Well, in that book, it talks about a guy who was excited about the gold rush, and he's drilling and mining for gold. He stops. He spends a whole lot of money, gets in debt, equipment and everything. He gets in debt, and he stops when he's this close to the gold. I think it's like a foot or 5 feet. And that's exactly what happens, man, is people get 5 feet away from the gold and they stop. Someone says 3 feet short of gold. Okay, so you probably read that book. Okay, so 3 feet short of gold.
Yeah.
But he's that close.
Yep.
Man, he's that close to striking gold. Do you know how many people are that close to experiencing success and not having to go punch a time clock?
I mean, there's a saying I've heard plenty of times is you're one handshake away from achieving all your dreams and wealth you could ever dream of. It's meeting that one right person that just takes you to that right path, or introduces you to somebody that changes like your whole business. I mean, I've had one introduction where you get a really great client that just keeps feeding you work because you just have a great relationship, and you focus really hard on doing great work for them, and not fighting them, like sometimes, like where if you mess up, right, being taking that responsibility of like, yeah, I messed up and I'm going to go fix it, and I'm obviously not going to charge you for that, or charge you because I have to come back to fix it, because sometimes people, a lot of contractors will find all the ways possible to charge remobilization fees, where they charge a little extra because they had to come back out. And so a lot of times I find ways to have to avoid that, or I just take care of great customers and clients, because that lifetime value is worth way more than that small minor inconvenience that part of the reason is I brought onto myself. It had nothing to do with them. So why should they have to pay for my mistakes, stuff like that? Or you just do that small favor for that great client, and you just solidify that relationship with them, because especially when they're being over helpful to you on like not price shopping, you know what I mean? That's like, if once you have like those type of customers, like that's the sweet spot. I mean,
Right.
those are the ones you really take care of if you can, and that leads to more referrals and more work. I mean, it's just
Right.
you just keep coming back to it.
100%. Yeah, I mean, and you, man, look, it sounds cool to tell people you have a business, but if you don't get customers, you don't have a business,
You don't.
because customers are what keep you in business. And I couldn't have said it any better. We've got a couple people in the chat. I want to do some questions, if you don't mind. If you got some questions for Mario, in today's live stream, we're talking about how to grow a striping business fast. If you guys don't know Mario, Mario is a friend of mine. He's located in Florida, and I mean, we started around the same time, and this guy is just exploding. And that's what we wanted to talk about in this live. I wanted to bring you guys a new face and talk about how to grow a striping business fast, because I believe that he can provide some valuable insight that would help you. And so if you have any questions about growing a striping business, things that are working for you, what you're struggling with right now, and put it down in the chat, and then we'll bring it up, and then we can ask Mario to give us some comments on it. And so I want to give it a minute while people are typing in the chat. Okay, so Michael's life cycle says, Mario, how did you land your first clients? I'm also in Florida, just starting a pressure washing company.
All right. So here's the inside of exactly what I did to land that first client is I pulled up Google Maps. I put in churches near me, and I looked at all the churches, and I got a sheet of paper. You can get Excel sheet. But basically I wrote down the property, the phone number, and the address and I looked at all the ones closest to me with the smallest parking lots. So like I said, the first one had like literally 288 stalls. I just tried to find the smallest parking lots first, because I was planning on hand rolling. So I didn't want to get, 50 parking stall project and now be stuck hand rolling that, because you'll know soon enough if you've ever hand rolled parking stalls. It takes a while. It can take a while especially when you're taping off all the edges. So I just, like I said, I went on Google Maps. I looked up churches near me because I wanted properties that were closed during the week, that had the most like availability to schedule, and to not feel the pressure of getting the jobs done and in a timely manner, because a lot of times they have to have no cars in the parking lot while you're working. So you want to make sure, you respect if they're making sure that their parking lots are clear for you. So find the smallest parking lots you can. That's always my recommendation. Go find like the 4, 5, no more than 5. If you can, find 2, and look in the city wherever you can near you, and just start reaching out. Thankfully with churches, it's a lot easier to find the decision maker for those type of projects. A lot of times it's the pastor or the priest of wherever you're at. So just calling and just offering your services. And I just called a few places until I got a yes.
Yeah, that was a really good response. And then also he says that he is just starting a pressure washing company. And that's what's going to happen at first. You're going to start a main service, and then you're going to branch out. Okay. We started with parking lot striping, then we added pressure washing, then we added asphalt maintenance, crack filling, seal coating, and now we do parking lot maintenance, sign installation, wheel stop installation. And people want to do business with people that they know, like, and trust. And if they know you, you can get them to like you. And if they like you, you can bet that they're going to trust you, if you're a likable person, to successfully complete the job. So you're starting a pressure washing company, which is good, but keep it in the back of your mind that you need to expand your services. Okay. What they call it a turnkey solution. And these general contractors want what they call a turnkey solution, to where they can go to someone who does the striping, does the sign installation, wheel stop installation, all this stuff, because they don't want to, yeah, let me subcontract a guy for the striping, and then subcontract a guy for the wheel stop installation, and then subcontract 4 or 5 different contractors in relation to parking lot maintenance. They want one contractor to perform all these services, to relieve them of the burden to successfully complete the job. So that was a good commentary, Mario. Here's another one. A lot of managers refuse to give the owner's phone number and email. How to get around this?
Well, one way is you can go on LinkedIn and look up, the titles around those for those roles. So like district managers, you can look up area managers, keywords like that, and reach out to them on LinkedIn. You just keep going to other places. I mean, it's just that's really a fast way for them to kind of like, I don't know you, so therefore I don't really trust you, so I'm not going to give you this information. And depending on the type of place you're going to too, they might have those type of policies. And this just goes back to that other question of like, if you were in business for a year, and you're not getting traction, what do you do? And so, like I said, pivot and go find different avenues, different people to talk to. I mean, it really is just getting a couple jobs and building a few good relationships to get that little momentum. And then once you get a taste of like getting paid, right? Getting those first couple paychecks, even if you do it for free, it still feels good. But really, when you get those first couple paychecks, it really, at least for me, like it really just like, oh man, this is totally possible. Like, it's just like, yeah, I just got to go out there and just keep going and just don't stop. So, and figuring out like pay attention to like what's working for you too. Like that's another big thing. Like if 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 going to certain type of events, you're seeing like really good relationships coming out of that, or really good things coming out of that. If you send out flyers and you're getting really good traction with that, like you're getting a good couple jobs from doing that, or going door to door, like pay attention, because like what works for me may not work for you. So it's all about experimenting with these different ways of meeting and getting in front of clients, and then just paying attention to where are you getting the best response from, and then really pay attention then deeper of like what exactly are you doing to get that response, so now you can fine tune it even more and get even better at selling in that way.
Yeah, and this is something that takes effort. I mean, selling jobs is definitely a skill set that you acquire over time, okay? There's a key word to understand this question right here. That key word is innovation, okay? Innovation, all right? What you have to do is do what other people are not doing in the marketplace and then capitalize on that, okay? Everybody else is handing out business cards. Everybody else is driving around cold calling, but what makes you different than everybody else who's just cold calling, okay? And innovation and creativity is what is going to catapult you to the next phase. Okay. I mean, I've got people who've been doing this, man. They're on year 5, man. They're dead. They have no business. They have no customers. They're handing out business cards and they're asking me what they're doing wrong. You know what I mean? And it's not, and it's just, and it's it's not an attack, but it's like, just like Mario said, if you're trying something and it's not working, don't keep doing the thing that's not working and then going, I wonder if I'm going to have a different outcome.
Or at least not trying to change the approach. I mean, if you're getting a lot of no's on your door-to-door sales and you're not at least like trying to pay attention to how to change your messaging, like, you have to experiment with a lot of different, you can experiment a lot of different ways of approaching the same type of client. So, if you go in there and how you introduce yourself, pay attention to that, say, if you notice that people are not responding very well when you're like, hey, I'm Mario, this is my company, we offer this type of service, and then you're getting a lot of resistance, versus paying attention of going in there like, hey, your parking lot's looking really faded, but you have such a nice property. Have you ever considered like getting this like fixed? Like, this is like you're drawing customers away. See the difference there versus me like, hey, this is me in my company,
Yeah.
and what I do.
Yeah. What could you do for
what,
me?
and what I want from you.
Yeah.
Versus, hey, you have a problem and I really want to help you. Versus, hi, this is me. This is my company. This
Right.
is my service,
Right.
and I want your money.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Do you see that? You know what I
yeah,
mean? Do you see the
no,
difference?
I no, I understand. No, I understand. Yeah, I understand. And that's, man, you said that right. just being different than every other sleazy, greasy contractor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Offering legitimate solutions. I definitely made a video about that. And if you guys can check that out. Here is another question. Michael's Life Cycle says, question for both. Who were your mentors, or did you learn yourself? Is it worth spending money to get into some online groups?
100%. 100%. It's not worth paying to be on online groups if you're that serious about like learning how to do this.
Right.
Gosh, I mean, I'm always like, I'm actually getting the process of figuring out like a business mentor to pay to help me with right now, because being able to use the money from, from this business to like really like steamroll your growth. I mean, that's how I've also been able to grow so fast, is like, who's already been doing this for enough time? What other resources out there of like what YouTube videos are out there? Cause that's free at least. Can I at least get enough information from these free videos to at least know how to start in some like way, and then join, like, are there any like community groups, like we're in our Discord group, and that's super powerful, and that's paid for, and it's just totally worth it, because like sometimes you get caught in a bind and it's like, I need like, hey, I'm experiencing this. Has anyone else experienced this? Most likely yes, because especially for people who've been doing this for like 10 plus years, they've definitely experienced more than likely what you're going through multiple times, and they already know the solution to what you're looking for. And so fast tracking and getting, like, when you fall down, being able to find the resources to stand back up so much faster, or prevent yourself from even falling in the first place, like,
Yeah.
and surrounding yourself from other people that are doing, I mean, I don't know if you've heard the saying, like, you are who you hang out with, right? So I also want to be around people who are doing the thing that I want to do. And so being in those groups, paying for, like, finding a mentor who's willing to, and be willing to pay them too for their time and experience. And because you can really, take that information and really change your life with it.
100%. I mean, man, I'll tell you what. I probably put anywhere between 2 to 5 grand into myself in selling every month. That's just in sales and in business. I have a business mentor, and I put 2 to 5 grand into myself every month as far as selling. And my Sherwin rep is a workout guy. Dude's super jacked. And so I pay him like, I think like $200 a week to for nutrition and lifting, and man, I'm dropping weight like crazy. But what I mean is paying people who have more experience than me to assist me to acquire a desired result. Man, I'm putting sometimes 6 grand into myself every single month for personal development. But what you do is the more you get, the more better you are at selling, the more money you're going to make. Okay. And
Yep.
just like Mario said, I mean, I have all sorts of people that I'm friends with, but if we don't have the same goals, then I'm not going to spend a considerable amount of time with those people. It's no offense to those people, right? Whether it's friends, family, relatives, whatever the case may be, right? If I'm trying to build and grow a successful, thriving business, then I'm not going to spend too much time with someone who doesn't desire to build and grow a successful business. I mean, it's practical. Like, I don't hang out with people that smoke cigarettes. It's not, if you smoke cigarettes, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that, like, that's your own personal preference. But what I mean is that I want to hang out with people who want to accomplish the same exact results that I want to.
Yep.
And I believe that's super important. So yes, you should spend money to get into online groups. And the thing is, this is what I was telling somebody the other day. Okay. We don't mind he was talking about a training or something. I think the training was like, it was like $400.
Yeah.
It's a $400 training. And this guy he was scared to spend $400 on a training that's going to help him make money. And I told him, I was like, dude, you're going to spend $400 going out to eat this month. He didn't say, no, I'm not. He was like, yeah, you're probably right. And I'm like, man, dude, you see what I'm saying? So just being afraid, it's like, how valuable are you to yourself? I mean, if you're not willing to invest in yourself in order to acquire desired results, like how am I going to ask a customer to pay me $4,000? Or
yeah, if you can't even pay yourself, spend $400 for yourself, and you
yeah,
want to get someone to spend $4,000 to restripe their parking lot, like
it's yeah. Can you? Yeah, I want you to spend your money with me, but I don't want to put money into myself. And it's like, man, I used to have that mentality, man. It's back whenever I was working a 9-to-5 job, dude. Like it's what it is. It's a paycheck mentality, man.
It is.
It's
It's hard to escape. But the thing is, though, if it's not this, then it's like, yeah, okay, maybe I don't want to do striping anymore. I want to go learn this. But at the end of the day, it's the same problem. You're going to be coming up to the same roadblock and decision that you're going to have to make. At the end of the day, the fastest way to learn any skill is to go find somebody that's already done that same skill that you're looking for, and how to fast track, get into their ecosystem. Do they have a book? If you don't want to spend $400 on a course, is there a book out there? Are there YouTube channels out there? Like, what are the resources? And then go do it instead of just consuming it and expecting results just magically happen. The only magic that happens is the doors that open up after you start taking the action of actively doing the thing.
right. And man, I mean, and that reminds me of a comment that I got from somebody else. Guys, I see these comments in here. We're gonna keep answering these questions. Keep the comments coming. If you guys are interested and you want to hear Mario's response of how to grow a striping business fast, just keep dropping the comments in the comment section. And because he's just throwing out free value here. There was this guy who was messaging me, and he bought one of our trainings. And he wasn't experiencing success like he thought he should. And man, a training is just like a diet, man. If you're in a cutting diet and it requires you to be in a calorie deficit, you can't be in a calorie surplus and then expect the diet to work.
Yeah.
And it's the same exact concept. If you're whatever the case may be, if you're building a business, whatever it is, if you're not putting in the work in order to acquire the specific desired results, you're not going to achieve the outcome. You've got to put the work in order to achieve the outcome. Lightning Striping says, I'm in that transition period like you were, Chris. Still got to hold a 9-to-5 until I break through. That's good. Good, man. Keep that 9-to-5, man. There's no shame in that whatsoever to have a full-time job. There's
especially for that health insurance. Like, once you're on your own, you're responsible for a lot of different things than you were before that you got to figure out. And it's not just how to pay yourself, it's taxes and health insurance.
Yeah.
And then other insurance once you start getting really serious,
Right.
So,
I just look, it's funny you said that. I just paid quarterlies last week. I just paid quarterlies last week, and I forgot to get in quarterlies from second quarter. Now I'm all caught up as far as taxes for this year. I'm all caught up. Everything's looking good. But the thing is man, you have to account for taxes. And if you're in a certain tax bracket, you got to keep back 24%.
yeah.
So think about this for a second, right? Like, that's why there's no shame in maintaining a full-time job, because if you're at a certain tax bracket, you have to keep back 24%. And then you have to factor in, that's not your overhead cost. That's not your equipment. That's not your insurance. That's not your payroll. That's not your scale. I mean, that's not your scalability, right? That's not your growth trajectory. Like, how fast do I want to grow in X amount of years, right?
Yep.
So your plan has to be defined. It's a lot more than just like, oh, I started a business and I got like 2 jobs. It's like, man, the further on you go, you're like, okay, what do I need to put back in order to maintain the same growth and achieve a growth trajectory that I'm trying to hit? Like, I've got goals. So like every time we pull out the trailer, whether it's seal coating, line striping, pressure washing, whatever the case may be, my goal is to hit a 2K average ticket price. That means every single time we do a job, whether it's a $500 job or a $15,000 job, it's an average ticket price of $2,000. That's what I
Yep.
have to make because you're paying people, right? So now think about it like this. It's not even just, oh man, I'm trying to replace my income, but it's like now I've got people that are depending upon me so that they can get paid and pay their bills.
Yep.
So there's nothing.
Or if you're like me and just been doing this by yourself this entire time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but that's good though, man. That's good. Like ever since I've
but
started, I've always paid somebody to help me.
but there's so much value though. Like there's been so much time like where I could be off a job so much faster if I just had one extra hand, even if they weren't actually striping itself. Like there's just when you get out there and you're starting to do it. I mean, I think it's great because you learn how to actually start doing a lot of different things really fast. And you're really forced in that position, and to also problem solve, learning how to solve a lot of problems really well too. So then when you do hire somebody, it's a lot easier for you to train them, right? To now do the thing to help you out and what you're actually looking for, because so many times, man, it's so frustrating when you're working for a manager that has no idea like what they're looking for or what they need from you. And now, you're just left in a tough spot. And so when you have an employee, you want them to have like that kind of solid direction and leadership so they have that clarity and that confidence, so they're more confident in the work that they're doing because they feel confident in what you're asking of them and what they're learning. And so they're less likely to mess up, or like they learn faster because you're not constantly changing things on them.
Right. 100%. I mean, I totally agree. I like this comment right here from Lightning Striping. He said, goal is to keep our standard of living the same and the extra capital invest into more equipment. And that's a wonderful comment. And I think there is societal pressure. Just like I said a minute ago, whenever you start a business, everybody thinks just because they start a business, they have to immediately quit their job and work for themselves because they
Yeah.
got a business. Man, and it's like, dude, I was talking to somebody the other day, and in a humble way, in a short period of time, we have in our business, and I know in yours too. We both know where we're at as far as
Yep.
profit, revenue, all that stuff. But the thing is that our standard of living, just because you got X amount of dollars in your bank account, it does not mean that you have to immediately go get in debt, buy another trailer. Yeah, I mean, man, I told somebody the other day in a live, I said, y'all, I'm still in the trenches. Like, dude, I'm still in the same place, got the same truck. I mean, of course I've upgraded my equipment to make
Oh yeah.
more, but like, I'm not going out and be like, man, I could just go buy a house, or I could get a big old diesel truck and be in debt. Man, I'm not, and I'm still in the
Well,
trenches too.
I mean, here's the thing though, that you have to really take in consideration of like what you just said, especially like when you start seeing that money start coming in, is how much are you going to keep in there to grow your business? How fast do you actually want to grow? Because like I said, when I started my business is I literally bought 5-gallon white bucket, which cost at that time probably like $120 for that one bucket. And then I bought a blue traffic bucket, which is another $120. So I'm already $240 in. And then tape, 4-inch paint rollers, little blower, push broom, right? So I'm very under like $500 to do like my first job. And oh shoot, my brain just dumped on me.
Well, we were talking about just not feeling the societal pressure to compete with other people based upon how much money you have. So just because,
Yeah, now I remember. So like the big thing is every time I got money from the business is I saved it as much as I could, and I just, when the time was right, I bought the next piece of equipment. So that meant there were a few times where I would get a call for a job that was a little bit bigger than I probably could handle because I just did not have the proper equipment. So in those situations, I would just go find somebody who could do the job and get their pricing for it, and then be willing to subcontract the job out to them, put a small markup, and not make as much money, or completely pass the job on to somebody else. But just being willing to be okay, though, that when you're growing from the beginning and you don't have everything you need right away because you don't have the funds, be, and be willing to just take on the right jobs for where you're at, and then grow into the new jobs where you get to have like the better payout or the bigger project. Because now I was able to buy, I bought an electric striping machine cash from the business. I bought a brand new like 3900 cash from the business, a new trailer cash with the business, got it wrapped for branding and marketing to have that word of mouth continue, cash in business. So I'm in a zero debt business right now because I didn't overextend myself, because I was willing to find the right jobs for where I was at those times.
yeah,
When you're growing, targeting the small parking lots so you can get that couple $100, $400, get them to pay you. And then another thing to consider though too is, especially if you've never been in this business, or is that you don't always get paid right away either. So when you start pulling out money for materials and other things, and you think you're going to have this other money coming in, or you think you're going to have another job right away, but you don't know for sure just yet, like that's why it's good to have that capital saved up, right? Like one of the biggest reasons I had to buy the 3900 is because I was getting ready to do a too big of a job that my little striping machine was just not going to be able to handle. It was just going to clog like crazy, and I was on a tight, timeline. And so because I had that capital saved up, I was able to then invest into that new striping machine, which made the job so much easier and faster. And it's just be willing to, with that capital of having that pocket in there and being investing back into the business. I mean, that is partially how I was able to grow so fast. Is I was constantly putting money back into the business and not in my own pocket.
yeah. And I think that's a mistake that people do. I mean, it's just a mistake. It's a mistake. They go to, spending money when there's no need to spend it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do you need? Think about it like this for a second. You got a job. Let's say you're making $2,000 a week. You're striping. You're making, $2,000 a week, $3,000 a week, whatever. Let's say you're making $500 a week, whatever. Why do you need to go out just because you get one job and immediately blow the money that you get for vanity's sake? So what? Now you got 5 machines and you're only running a crew part-time. It's just vanity's sake. I don't understand it. Lightning Striping says, Chris, how do you ask for churches? Feel like churches around here want services for free. Is this from the perspective of you're trying to acquire them as a customer, or are you trying to leverage? Are you trying to do it for free, or give me some more of the context. How do you ask for churches? Feel like churches around here want services for free. Everybody wants something for free, but but if you keep that perspective that there's no such thing as a free lunch, it'll help you have a different sort of mentality. But what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? How do you ask for churches? Feel like churches here want services for free. We'll come back to that question while you're typing it. I've got another question. Michael's Life Cycle says, appreciate that advice, Mario and Chris. How can I go about getting into the Discord group? Michael, if you're interested in getting into the Discord group, just send me a text message at 405-902-6154. And then we'll see if you're serious about you know, growing. He says, "You're the man, by the way. Thanks for the advice." Mario, what area of Florida are you in? I'm in Jacksonville.
Michael, I'm in the Tampa, Florida area. So I pray for you a little bit with the hurricane that's coming your way, because it looks like it's going to hit more your direction than mine.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, if there's not any more questions, I mean, if you guys are in the chat, if you have any questions for Mario, we're talking about how to grow a striping business fast. If you guys do not know Mario, he is probably the fastest growing company in Tampa, Florida right now. The guy is he's doing a phenomenal job. And today in this live, he's giving away free value. I mean, this is what it is. Free value that you can implement today to help make you better. Lightning Striping says the churches say they don't have the funds, so I usually offer to do it for free or at cost. Okay, it depends upon your motive. All right, so churches are probably not going to have the funds, but like we said in the beginning of the live, everybody is not your target customer. Okay, so if there's nothing wrong to do it for free or at cost, but you want to make sure that you're getting social proof. You're leveraging social proof. I'm the highest ranked company in my state for the service that I provide. Without question, we're destroying everybody. And the reason why is because we do things just like this. I still go out, or I'll send somebody out to go and do a job for free. And then we'll get Google reviews. And so if they don't have the funds, do it for free or at cost, and then get a testimonial, get a review, leverage that stuff. And,
pictures.
Pictures
and videos, so you
right.
can show your next one.
Yeah. And then do that more over and over and over. And I'm telling you what, like, you'll have more customers than what you can service. You'll have more money than you can even spend. And and he says, Lightning Striping says, that's what I've been doing. Good job, bro. Keep going out there, bro, in the trenches. Thanks, Mario. Lightning Striping says. Michael's Life Cycle said, ha ha ha, I appreciate that. It's a good day to stay inside and learn. Okay, guys. Well, we wanted to bring this live to y'all. Mario and I were talking on the phone. I thought, man, let's just go live. And go, if you're just catching the live, you haven't been here, go back and rewatch it, re-listen to it, like dissect the information, take the free value that you're taught in these videos, and then implement what you're taught. And then if you implement what you're taught, you guys can experience the same results. Mario, any last words for the live?
I'll say one caveat. Not a guru. I'm just explaining from my experience of what's actually worked for me and what you can implement for yourself and try it out. If I'd say, if you're thinking about doing this, go out there, go find a property. It doesn't have to be a church if you're finding churches aren't your thing or whatever. But my recommendation is just finding the smallest parking lots. I can't stress that enough. Just find the smallest parking lots. Be willing, if you're willing to do it for free, that's a faster way you're going to be able to grow and get the experience. Sell it if you can sell it, obviously try that too. But just get out there, go find somebody, a small parking lot that you can schedule, that they're closed when you're not working your full-time or part-time job, and you just got to find the right property. And you'll be able to eventually make it a full-time thing if you stick with it long enough and replace that 9 to 5.
100%. Lightning Striping says, thanks, Chris. As always, you are doing the Lord's work, giving knowledge. Man, yeah, the Lord is so good to me, man. I mean, Jesus said in John's gospel, that except a man be born again, he shall not see the kingdom of God. And honestly, I mean, if people know me personally and they know how I use our funds and the work, and we really do use this for the gospel's sake, because we want to replicate that process. So yeah, the Lord's been real good. Matter of fact, if any of you guys are anybody in the chat, real quick, is near Oklahoma, we are having a week of revival services. Matt's going to be there. Matt from Quality Parking Solutions, he's going to be there. And we're having services all week, starting at 7:00. And then we're going until Friday. We've been going since Sunday, and then we're going to Friday. So, anyways, if you guys are interested, come to Oklahoma, check that out. Love to say hello to y'all. And so,
or if
then
you're interested in joining the Discord group, why don't you put your number in the number they need a text to reach out?
Yeah, 100%. Boom. There's the number. Drop the number in the chat right there, 902-6154. Guys, we thank you for catching the live. This is my first live that I've really done, other than the lives that I've done with Justin. If you guys are interested in more lives, be sure to comment, like in videos, right? If you come across a video, leave a comment in the comment section about a subject that you might want covered in a live, and then we'll go live on it, and then we'll talk about it and see if we can help you grow. Anyways, that's all. Mario, you got anything else?
Just have a good day and get out there and just do it.
Get out there and grow and stop making excuses. That's what people need to hear. Stop making excuses for why you can't succeed. One more thing.
No time.
Yeah, there's no perfect time. I was gonna quit, but now I was gonna quit. I want to say one more thing. People the other day in the chat were talking about what's not working for them and why can't they get business. And then Matt looked on Google and he said, well, you're ranked number 8. And so I was like, oh, okay. And then I posted that in the chat. I was like, hey, I'm ranked number 8. So if I'm ranked number 8, what's y'all's excuse for not staying busy? Because everybody's got an excuse. So if you're not successful, what's your excuse? If you're not full-time yet, what's your excuse? If you're not where you want to be or should be, what's your excuse? The only excuse should be is I'm not holding myself accountable and doing what I need to do in order to achieve the acquired result. So keep that in mind. All right, guys. Thanks for catching the live. Don't forget to like the video, and we'll see you in the next one.
Take care.